right, everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're getting into something I think a lot of us dread, especially in these kind of hot, humid places we live in. We're talking clogged AC drain lines, and we're using this article from Wholesale AC Services in Miami as our guide.
And it's interesting, they really go beyond a simple how-to here.
Hmm.
Like you said, in a place like Miami, dealing with a clogged drain line is kind of inevitable, right?
Right.
So it's almost like they're prepping their customers to be able to handle it
For
themselves.
sure, for sure. So no more panic calls to the repair guy every time you hear a gurgle, huh? This time we're going to be armed and ready to tackle it ourselves. Although I got to admit, reading this, I'm realizing I didn't know as much about these things as I thought I did.
Yeah, they start off by explaining how crucial these drain lines actually are. Your AC unit, it's not just cooling the air, right? It's pulling out moisture, too. All that moisture's got to go somewhere, and that's where the drain line comes in. But of course, a place like South Florida, super humid, you're basically setting up the perfect environment for algae and mold to just party in those lines.
Makes sense. Always damp. It's like a breeding ground for grossness. No wonder they get clogged.
Exactly. They get into the whole science of it, how humidity creates that condensation inside the system. Perfect breeding ground for all that nasty stuff. And that buildup, that's what leads to the clog.
Right, so they give you the step-by-step for fixing a clog, which is great, but before you even get to the how, they hit you with a safety reminder. Got to turn off the unit before you go poking around in there. It's simple, but I can totally see someone forgetting that in a moment of panic.
Absolutely. They're all about giving homeowners the tools, but not at the cost of someone ending up hurt.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's kind of refreshing to see, right? So once you're in the clear, they highlight this super easy solution, vinegar.
Vinegar. Wait, like the stuff I put on my
You
salads?
got it. The article explains that because it's acidic, vinegar can actually break down that algae and mold. So it's natural, effective, good for the environment. What more could you ask for?
See, I'm all about that eco-friendly life. I'm already picturing myself, vinegar in hand, ready to conquer this clogged drain line. Then I get to this part about drain line cleaner gadgets.
Yeah, the self-cleaning thing. It's like a Roomba for your AC drain line, constantly flushing out gunk so it doesn't even have a chance to clog.
Okay, now that sounds almost too good to be true. Do those things actually work? I'm kind of tempted to order one right now.
Well, they can definitely help, but they make a good point. Even with the gadget, regular maintenance is still key. It's not some magic bullet, more like a, I don't know, helpful sidekick. You still got to put in a little effort.
Sure, true. It's easy to get sucked into the set it and forget it promises. But you're right, being proactive is key. And speaking of proactive, the article gets into these drain pans, which honestly, I kind of forget about until they're a problem. Oh, yeah, those things. Out of sight, out of mind until they overflow or something, right? But they're obviously important, catching all that moisture from the AC. So if they're neglected, well, let's just say it's not pretty. And that's where things get interesting. They explain why ignoring that drain pan can cause even bigger problems than just a clogged line.
Yeah, that pan is made to hold the excess condensate, right? But it's not bottomless, obviously. So if it overflows because of a clog, that water's got to go somewhere. And it might just end up back in your house, which is not ideal.
Definitely not. Okay, so how do we avoid that nightmare?
Well, the article stresses how important those regular checks of the drain pan are. They even take you through it step by step, and it's way simpler than you'd think. And you want to guess their secret weapon for keeping it clean.
Let me guess. Vinegar.
Bingo. Turns out, rinsing it with vinegar every few months works wonders for preventing those clogs. Plus, they show you exactly how to access the drain pan safely. Even got some diagrams for the visual learners out there.
Nice, nice. So we've covered a lot. The science behind the clogs, preventative stuff, even this whole vinegar thing, which is news to me. But there's one thing I'm wondering. This article's from a Miami AC company, right? And it's super humid there. Does all this stuff still apply in other climates? I live in a pretty dry area. Should I even be worried about my drain line?
That's a good point, and it highlights something important. See, even though the article is talking about South Florida, the basics of AC maintenance, that applies everywhere.
So my drain line could still clog, even if I'm not battling Miami-level humidity.
Definitely. The causes might be a little different, like think dust buildup instead of crazy algae. But neglecting that drain line is going to cause problems no matter where you live.
Okay, that's actually a relief. I was starting to think I needed a humidity monitor just for my AC.
That's the thing, right? Understanding the why helps you figure out what you need to do in your specific situation. The specifics might change, but regular checks, cleaning, all that stuff, That's universal.
Makes sense. It's about being an informed homeowner, not just blindly following some guide.
Exactly. You know how your AC works. You'll be able to spot problems before they become disasters.
And maybe even fix some of them ourselves. This whole deep dive has been kind of empowering. I'm looking at my AC in a whole new way now.
That's the power of knowledge, right? Turn something boring like an AC drain line into a learning experience, maybe even a little DIY adventure.
I love it. And speaking of DIY adventures, they mention those drain line cleaner gadgets. Didn't go into much detail, though. I'm still kind of curious.
Yeah, the set it and forget it dream for your drain line. Definitely tempting.
Right. But even with that, they said regular maintenance is still important.
Exactly. Which leads to an interesting question. Are those gadgets worth it, or are they just another gimmick?
Good point. Not sure we can answer that without, actually testing them out. But that's a deep dive for another day.
Definitely. For now, how about we switch gears a bit? They touched on air filters and how important those are.
Oh, yeah, the unsung heroes of the AC world. They're important for preventing those clogs, too, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about airflow. A dirty air filter, it lets all that dust and junk get sucked into the system, and where does it end up? Right in that drain line.
Like a domino effect, one thing leads to another, and boom, clogged drain line.
Exactly. And they're big on this.
Yeah.
Changing your air filter, simple thing, huge impact on preventing those clogs.
Yeah.
They even say you should check around the unit itself for leaves, grass, anything that could get in there.
Being proactive, that's the name of the game, right? Like, so much of this home maintenance stuff is just paying attention to the little things before they become big, expensive problems.
100%. It's easy to get overwhelmed with all the stuff they tell you to do around the house. But honestly, sometimes the easiest things make the biggest difference.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that. It's not magic, just being smart about it. Which, speaking of, this whole article, they could have kept all this to themselves, gotten more business that way. But they're putting it out there, helping people handle this stuff on their own.
Right. Builds trust when you do that, don't you think? It's not just about making a buck. It's like they actually want to help people out.
Totally. It says a lot about them, I think. So, as we wrap up this AC drain line deep dive, what's the main thing you hope people take away from this?
Don't wait till it's an emergency. Little maintenance goes a long way.
And don't be afraid to get your hands a little dirty.
Or in this case, maybe a little vinegary.
There you go. Well, this has been fun. Learned a ton about why those drain lines clog, how to prevent it, and who knew vinegar was such a miracle worker.
It's all about perspective. Sometimes the most boring stuff is actually pretty interesting when you get into it.
That's the truth. All right, everybody. Thanks for diving in with us. Let us know if you've ever tackled one of these clogs or if you have any home maintenance secrets. Until next time, stay cool out there.